In this final version of the form script that we've been working on, we're going to use both the trim and the replace function to handle if our user adds some bad words to the comment section. We might not want these to be posted or something like that. So we're going to remove any sort of bad word with just some characters that would indicate that it was a naughty word. So what we will do is I'm going to go back to one of the previous versions, and currently if we click send it, the form is going to print the user's name and say thank you for our comments, and then it's going to truncate the comments and count the words. So I'm going to remove the substring line of code because we actually want to see the full line of code. So if I was to refresh the message right now, I would actually get the entire message. It's not going to truncate it. And actually my message isn't really long enough right now, but I'm just going to remove that so that that part will be in place. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use the trim function to trim any extra white space at the beginning or the end of the first name and last name because we won't need that information. So I'm going to make first name equal to, and then before I have my post function, I'm just going to add the trim function like this. So now if the user does add any sort of extra spaces, it will of course remove that, and we'll use that on last name as well. So that's just kind of good practice to apply the trim function when you're gathering data, just to remove any extra white space that the user might have added. And then before the print statement, we're going to add a new line of code. So this is going to take the results of the comments variable, and we're going to make it equal to our string, and we'll use the iReplace. And we're just going to use bad word as the word that we're looking for. You, of course, could enter any sort of word that you want, but for the purposes of this G-rated video, I'm just going to use bad word. And then I'm going to replace that with just some characters that would indicate that this was indeed a naughty word. And then I need to pass on where it is that I'm looking for this information. So that's going to be inside the comments variable. So this is something that you might commonly find if you were doing something on a comments section or a board where people would post comments. You might not want the user to be able to add any sort of bad curse word or something like that. So it would replace it then with whatever text you specify. And if we wanted to catch multiple bad words or naughty words, we would just continue to add another sentence. So if I just wrote another sentence here and said that I wanted to look for the word naughty, and then I'm going to replace it with my little gibberish of characters, and I'm looking for that inside my comments div, that's going to work as well. So we'll save this file. I'll come back out here to my form, and I'm going to alter my message. And we'll just say, here is my bad word, and here's another naughty word, and we're going to send it. And you can see that here's my message, and of course it is replacing the word bad word and naughty with our text that we had specified. So if the user enters a word that we would prefer they not use, we're just going to simply replace it with our own words. And it is worth noting that this function is going to catch the bad words even if they're in content. So if I put here are my bad words and I write it with a S and we send it, it's going to just add the S onto the end of the gibberish code that we had added. It is worth noting that you can use string replace and string iReplace to take an array of terms and replace with an array of replacement terms. So we may be using this function later on when we work with arrays, but arrays are going to come up in future lessons. One more thing that I do want to mention is we had used the trim function. In PHP, it is also possible that you have a rtrim function which would trim the spaces on the right. So they're going to remove any spaces that are at the end of a string. And then conversely, we would have the ltrim function, and they would remove the spaces on the left. So they work exactly the same way as trim. Trim is simply going to get rid of spaces on both sides, and then right and left trim are going to remove spaces on the appropriate side. So now you know some ways to work with strings and how we could actually apply those into our applications and how they may be of use.